the marriage to a lazy person, how would I, is the beginning of forfeited dreams. You understand? It's the beginning. They kill your productivity. They discourage your initiative. When you refuse to do it, they kill you. The first murder in the Bible was, apart from malice, it was a lazy offering by Cain. And he got offended because his brother did more than he did. His own was accepted. Laziness breeds that envious state. Now, I don't want to, we have a little to do today. So, like I said, I want to apologize to those non-Christians today, but I want to face the 47% that tells us and tells their spouse that it was God that told them not to work. That, God said they should go into ministry. God said, we're going to call somebody. You hear something you've never heard before. Yes, I really need to rush now. So now, I would not even address the jobless or the lazy ones. I want to address those of you that support the jobless and lazy ones, the lazy relatives and friends, those of you who remain in relationships that are one-sided in initiative and responsibility, those of you who are saddled with the responsibilities of the household, or father's house or your family, those that are in friendships that are one-sided, where the initiatives, ideas and support comes from you alone, those of you who are responsible financially for the welfare of friends, family and spouses. It is you that I want to talk to, not even the jobless ones. Now, King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, also known as King Lemuel. Funny enough, people do not realize that Solomon means man of peace, while Lemuel means devoted to God. So, Solomon described man in the book of Proverbs in 3 categories. First, the wise. Now, the wise is described by Solomon as a man, not that they are full of wisdom, but are willing to learn and always seek to understand things. Peculiar to them is the fear of conscience. They always have that conscience. They fear a supernatural being. The second classification of man is the fool. That is, not that they don't have an education or wisdom, but they believe that what they know is enough for them for their lifetime, so they are not willing to learn beyond what they know. They believe that what they know is knowledge, and these kind of people are very resistant to change. They do not regard conscience. Now, the third part, according to Solomon, are the simple. Now, the simple are in between the wise and the foolish. They are those that cannot decide but are easily imposed on. They do not move by their ideas but are driven more by public opinion. They fear what people will say. Their decisions in life are usually made for them. The contemporary definition, according to Oxford, a simple person in English is referred to as a simpleton when you want to describe a simple person. The English word for that is a simpleton. Now, the Oxford Dictionary describes a simpleton as a foolish or gullible person. Merriam-Webster defines a simpleton as a foolish or stupid person. It goes further to say that a simpleton is a person lacking in common sense. Cambridge Dictionary defines a simpleton as a person without the ability to use their own reason and to understand. Funny enough, the word simpleton also means meek. That is the word meek, M-E-E-K. So this became a problem when I saw the word meek, because I knew Moses was the meekest man ever to live according to the Bible. So I went to check the meaning of meek itself. It means enduring injury with patience, without resentment. They are deficient in spirit and courage. The Cambridge Dictionary also defines a meek person as gentle, quiet, not willing to argue or express their opinion in a forceful way. Dictionary.com describes meek as overly submissive. The vocabulary.com defines meek as a person willing to go along with whatever people are willing to do to them and for them. Collins Dictionary defines meek as patient in long suffering, spineless, spiritless, and compliant. That was where I was now like, all this to describe the meekness of Moses, because I thought that was a good trait. So I went to check in Hebrew the kind of meekness that Moses had. Because I felt that what meek meant in this contemporary dictionary could not have been the same with the meek referred to in the Bible, when it described Moses as the meekest man. So I saw that the Hebrew word for meek in the Bible is anaw, that is A-N-A-W, which refers to someone who is afflicted by bearing a burden. So you see that even in the Bible, it refers to them as bearing other people's burdens. Now, Moses never complained to God about the grief Miriam and Aaron caused him. He simply chose to bear their burden. The meek disposition of Moses was all over the book of Exodus, where he wore himself out, trying to help everyone solve their problem. In spite of this, he never complained. And throughout, no matter how it affected him personally, he kept bearing their burden. Now, what happened? He went to the mountain, got the 10 Commandments. God himself wrote on a tablet. And when he came down, his brother had made a golden calf. He was so angry, he smashed the 10 Commandments. God got furious. What happened again? He would do something, next thing, they would start complaining. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Why did you? He just kept bearing. God got angry. Let me destroy these people. Moses said, no, if you destroy them, people will say you brought us out from Egypt only to destroy us. And Moses kept pleading and pleading and pleading. Eventually, they complained that there was no water. The way they complained was not like, please, there's no water. It was like they had water in Egypt. Why did you bring us out? And then, Moses was angry again, and God said, hit this rock. More like tap the rock. He got angry because of the burden he had been bearing and struck the rock. Now that was what God had reached his elastic limit with Moses. Because he always bore the burdens of other people, what would have been a miracle to him became his condemnation. Because he struck that rock, look at the end of Moses, he never entered the promised land. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what will happen to those of you always carrying the burdens of others. You encourage them to the detriment of your own progress. The monies you should have used to raise your own children, make a better life, you would be carrying people like, he's my uncle, but they are lazy, they refuse to work, and you feel like it is your responsibility, not knowing that when you die, they will continue to live. In fact, they will come for your own property and drive your children out. Stop encouraging. Look at the end of Moses, the meekest man that ever lived. He never entered the promised land. Do you know the frustration of leading people for 40 years into the wilderness, all the miracles, only for they to enter the promised land and you to stand back watching people enter the promised land? That is what happens all the time. My father had that kind of problem. He would pay other people's school fees before he paid his own children's school fees. He was so magnanimous. People would come to him, and at the end of the day, when he died, none of them even checked after his children. None. Jesus said, cast all your burdens on him, not on you. When you want to be the savior of your family, you want to be the rock of your marriage, carrying all the burden. Madam, at the end of the day, anything happens to you, your high blood pressure, that same jobless person will marry another. Do you understand? You are the most important person to God. You are the most important, not the children that you bore, not the husband that you are married to, but you. Because he died for you. So your primary responsibility is to yourself. Now let us look at another person in the Bible and compare. Let us compare Moses with Elijah. Elijah was, the name of Elijah is my God is Jehovah. That is the meaning of Elijah. In the Bible, he was a no-nonsense person. He never took nonsense from anybody. He would give it to you. And he challenged the king. He said, there will be no rain unless I say so. He was the one that called down fire and destroyed and burnt all the prophets of Baal. He was someone who you cannot impose on, you cannot take his opinion away. He stood for what he stood for, his conscience. How did he end up? He was taken in a chariot of fire. He never died.
True.
That is someone who you will carry your own responsibility, I will carry mine. What happened? He was carried in a chariot of fire. He never saw death. But look at Moses, who was the bearer of burdens. He never entered the promised land. Ladies and gentlemen, I think enough is said. I am not talking to the lazy ones here. I'm talking to you who has resorted to bearing the burden of the entire generation. We have some calls to make. And we have a guest in the studio. I was saving the best for last. You remember last week while we were talking about the jobless person, and she was called on the show, and she told the story of how to keep her marriage, she had to be paying her husband 200,000 naira monthly. We have her in the studio today with us. Yes, I can see people wondering, Busayo, how are you?
I'm fine, good morning.
Okay, let's see. Shall you say something?
Good morning, I'm fine.
Busayo, first of all, you owe me 200,000 naira before we continue. You were paying your husband 200,000 because he just refused. He didn't work.
Okay, so
I'm still coming back to you. Just answer my question. He didn't work, and
there was no job at the moment. At that time, he was out of job, and I guess because of his age, a lot of companies are not actually taking him. In Nigeria today, employment is a bit challenging, especially when they are much more older, so they want to give people that are younger job opportunities.
Sure.
So I guess that was what happened, and I was trying to say, our boy should have money in his pocket that he feel like he won't be depressed. So I was just assisting, like being the helpmate. So I had to take this stipend. Even after I was still paying utility bills, I was still taking care of the home, and even though it wasn't convenient, I was just doing it that someday he would want to work and everything would be fine. But I didn't know that was a disaster.
okay. So what I want to understand is that, let me try to hold myself. We want to make a call before you start your story. We're going to make a call right now. Let me see. Okay, if you are listening, please, when you pick the call, just stay on the line. When you pick the call, just stay on the line. I think, is it going? Is the number going?
Hello?
Yes, fantastic. Good morning, ma'am. How are you, ma'am? Thank you very much for picking our call. This is Olumide Omosebi calling from Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. Onyinye knows how to do this thing better than me.
Okay.
So, ma, thank you for agreeing to share your story briefly. We have about 3 to 4 minutes, to share your story. Can you just tell us what exactly happened? How did all this begin? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes. Yeah.
Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh,
We can hear you.
You you said you have you said you had. Hello,
Okay, you
can
want to
you
ask your question?
hello,
You're
can you
there.
hear me?
Hear us.
Okay, you said you had 6 months for courtship. Was it was it like your intention for 6 months? The way you said we had 6 months. Oh, okay. Oh, the marriage committee. Okay. Oh, so you can actually choose the number of months you would date? Wow. Okay. Okay. I don't even want to ask the name of the church, but when you said marriage committee, I think I know the church.
Married. So I said yes, they know the business, because whenever he comes, my parents, everybody asks him, well, what do you do? He just say he's doing business, he's in CCTV, he's into CCTV installation. So when I came to Lagos to marry, the church did not allow us to even stay together. When I came to Lagos, I had to stay with his pastor until after the marriage was consummated in the court and in the church here in Lagos. Then I passed to join him. That was when I saw what really was happening after the marriage. Number one was the house, type of house he was living. We were living in one face me and face you at Oshodi. Number 17, Owoshoni. I'm saying this in case there is anybody that knows that house in 2000. So there was no toilet. It was a pit toilet, no kitchen. So I just said, we can do something, we can make something, at least we are starting. So we were living together, and I discovered that the business he told me he was doing was not his business. It was his uncle. His uncle always sending him, buy this for CCTV, buy this for CCTV. He was not having a shop, he was not having anything, but he said he have registered a business. That registration was just on the paper. It was not yielding anything. After the marriage, immediately I took him for my first child. I had a baby girl. When I saw the way things were difficult, I had to go and look for a job. I was working in Mushi. And because I did not really know all these family planning things, I was still breastfeeding my first baby when I took him for my second child. And when he knew that when I told him I was pregnant, he told me that I must abort that baby. That he wants me to get a job. That this first baby is okay. I should get a job before we start looking for. He insisted that I must abort that baby that year. But by the grace of God, with the help of some people in the church and everything, I was able to have that baby in the midst of suffering. My baby was birthed on the 29th of
November. So sorry, he wanted you to have a job. Did he have a job?
He even when I was pregnant, we were pregnant, I was trying to tell him, you look for a job, any job that can be supporting this one you are waiting for your brother. After a whole year, there is nothing for me.
Wow.
And he insisted that God has told him that registered company, that company he registered, that he will bless him. And God said he will bless him.
So he's not going to run ahead of God. So we should wait. Anyway, I took him to the pastor for counseling. And the pastor, after he relates his own experience with God, they will just tell me to start with patience. So when I saw that it was not only patient thing, I had to go looking for a job myself. And during this time, I was not working. Maybe when I had a baby, it was my mother. She would from village, parcel, gari, all those, any food stuff.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes left. So you were now the source of income for the house.
Yes, I got that job through his uncle.
Wow.
So through his uncle, didn't the uncle offer him the job?
The uncle asked him to come and work. They said he cannot carry five.
Wow.
So they told him he was having OATC. So they said the only job that he can get was the clerk. And then they told him that the job person of the clerk was to carry five. So he said he cannot carry five about. So that was my key in as the typist. Then that was how I got that job. Just less than 3 months
After having my baby, and I started the work in 2002.
So you kept working and supporting the house. Did he get a job?
He did not. He was just running up and down. He leaves house in the morning. He was not having anything tangible all that year.
Wow. So what now happened now?
He now moved from I married you, I paid your bride price, so I gave you the job. That the job that you are doing is my brother that gave you this job. So because of this, and were you there when I was serving my uncle? I served him throughout for so many years. That is why he gave me this job. So he was in just stay at home lazy. I tried to take him to school then. I was paying school fees, paying the children's school fees, trying all my best. But whatsoever I do was not satisfied at all.
Okay.
Got to his age finally that he started he trained me up with adultery. So their family member that I'm committing
Adultery.
The house. We were now living in our own house.
Who built the house?
Sir?
Who built the house?
I am the one that built the house at a barrel.
And then,
Now living here together.
okay, go on. We have just 2 minutes left.
Sir?
We have just 2 minutes. Go ahead, please.
So he trained me up that I'm committing adultery, and in their culture, they said that any woman committing adultery, if the husband keeps eating her food, it's the man that will die because he knows that his wife is committing adultery, or the children. So the family members were against me, calling me from the village that if I kill their brother, they will kill me. So it got to a point that one of his cousins came to Lagos to fight me that I must leave that house. So it was the best thing, the matter of death and life.
Okay.
Wow. So what happened to the house, first of all? First of all, what happened to that house first?
I ran away from there in 2015 with my children, and I came and ran as my children.
You left the house you built.
Under his care. At first, he was living in the house with the man that came to live in that house. Then at the time,
In your own house.
yes, in my house.
We have just 1 minute. So what are you today? What is the story of that house today?
The house needs to left because he couldn't maintain it. It's a house very close to the canal at the barrel there. So he couldn't maintain it. He ran away and went to look for one room to stay. Then the house is staying because I wanted to put a tenant here. Arrested me, arrested the tenant, arrested the agent that took us to the house. So the police station, and the police said I have no right to put tenant because he is the head of the house.
He's not the owner of the house, he's just the head of the family, so he must have the... Where is that house?
The house is at the barrel.
Okay. Can you hold on? Hello, my
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you for holding on. Thank you for holding on. So, I'm a bit upset. You ran away from the house. husband claimed the house and put his cousin there, drove away your tenant from the house you built. Am I correct?
Apart from that, he seized my car too. After that time, up to date, I don't know where the car is.
Why was he doing that?
He said that the work I was doing was for the whole family because his brother gave me the job to take
Care of me.
Wow. Wow.
family gave me to make trouble. Actually, why I had to run away, his brother, the cousin, told me that he would kill me. And that in that case, I used to go to work very early. 4:35, I have to leave because
Sorry.
I work on the island.
Sorry.
He told me that he did not hear you are passing, I am going to kill you and nothing will happen. With that threat, I went to the police station. And when I got to the police station, the case was treated like a civil case. You are guilty. Then I know that he made one.
Okay. We have to. So that house is in the documents are in whose name? I know you sent me the documents. Whose name is on the document?
All the documents, they are on my name.
So it is not Mr. and Mrs., it is just your name.
So yes.
And all the I have seen the documents. All your documents are complete.
Yes.
You have not gone back to the house since then.
Since then, since he arrested us and
So, is anybody living in the house now?
after today, they said nobody living there. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you know what? We are going to sell that house. You understand? What is the value of the house? When you look at it now, it's a half plot of land.
Half plot of land with 3 flats on it. 1 3-bedroom flat and 2 self-contained.
What area is that?
It's Abarode, very close to the canal, between Abarode and Akeson.
In what area? What area is that community?
Ikotu area of
Ikotun Egbe. Okay.
Ikotu area.
You have 1 3-bedroom flat and what again?
2 self-contained.
What is the value of that on the half plot of land in that area?
For now, I don't have those details for now.
How much are you willing to sell that property?
If I can get 15 to 20, I don't know.
On that property, I will put it on 15 to 20. You know how much dollar is in Nigeria, so people don't have money like that too.
Yes, it depends on.
If you get a serious buy, you are saying 15, 20. Half plot of land in Ikotun is up to 15 to 20 million. Okay, it has a property on it.
That is property.
Okay, let us be talking about 15. That you abandon that property, so I can assume that it is just there. Nobody, you are going to take a picture and send to me. If anybody wants to buy property, please, in Ikotun, please just call me. All the documents, I have a copy of the documents. All the documents are in her name, and a man a jobless person would now claim it because you got the job through his uncle that offered him the job, but he refused. Okay, that is what happens. They now begin to feel entitled to your. Thank you very much. We need to quickly move. We have one more person to talk to. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank
and
you so much,
we would meet. We will sell that property. You use that money to take care of yourself. It is your sweat.